It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Well, thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I am Sheba, a part of Sheba Shares, which is affiliated with the Divas That Care Network. I have the awesome privilege and honor to have Mrs. KeyStone in front of me to host our event, our interview, as it relates to social wellness for women. Yes, thank you. My tongue is getting tired.
That's okay, we're here to support each other.
Yes. So, which is, I think that this is definitely timely, right? It's appropriate. It's needed. So this is a perfect platform to share this space, just to share. This is what we're here for, to share your expertise, to share your tips, your guidance, your advice, so forth and so on. And so, Ms. KeyStone, tell us, a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Well, my name is KeyStone. And first of all, I want to say thank you for having me here today. This is a great space and I feel the energy and I can't wait to share and talk with you about all kinds of things, right? So we're going to try to stick to social emotional health of women. But I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a Brooklyn girl. Woo-hoo! And woohoo, Brooklyn girls. Right. And I truly grew up in a diverse neighborhood, and currently, by profession, I'm a leadership coach, trainer, and mental wellness advocate. And, I have my beautiful family, my children and my husband, and we are just moving along, especially in this time, trying to be there for each other in any way that we can.
Right. So, you mentioned what your current, business and profession is. And so would you say that the cause that's near and dear is social mental wellness?
Yes, I would definitely say that. I have really fell in love with mental wellness, particularly in women and women of color. Mm-hmm. I think first, let me define what I mean by social emotional health. I mean, women who are just thinking about how they regulate their own emotions, how they build relationships with other people, how they manage those emotions, especially in stressful times like we're living in right now, how they communicate, how they feel about themselves, and just how they're able to manage from day to day. I know we were talking a little bit earlier about just managing and dealing with our own lives, but mental health, mental wellness doesn't just mean those buzzwords like self-care and lighting candles, although we do that, although we take the bubble baths because we need them, okay? We need them. All right. So we don't exclude those kinds of things, but really taking care of our insides so that we can just be healthier, have healthier self-esteem, have confidence, just be able to say, this is how I'm feeling. And even if the other person doesn't acknowledge it, I'm still able to say it. I'm still able to be heard, and I'm still able to move forward regardless of what other people do. And I just think, well mothers, well women support well children, right? So if we're not well, if we're not filling ourselves up with the things that we need, we can't do that for other people. And I I'm in education, so children are near and dear to me, but we know that children who experience and see their parents going through certain things are going to experience or more likely to experience the same things and handle them the same way. So once we are well, we can just support our communities in a better way.
Wow, that's so critical because especially it seems like we go through these phases, right, of fads where, like you said, these buzzwords, self-care, and I put my incense, or like you said, bubble baths and things like that. But what you're alluding to is that there's a deeper meaning behind some of these practices, if that so to speak, right? And there's a deeper impact and a deeper need, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's so beyond just, self-care is so beyond just like this surface. And also, if I could say, it's beyond this fad, right? Or this.
Yeah, it's not trending, right?
It's not trending. This is almost like a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. So that's amazing. And of course, we're both in education. So children, definitely, you do see these, in some cases, they say like these generational, things that pass down generations. And sometimes you have to really, pay attention to these things, because if you're not paying attention to it, it can almost catch you by surprise.
Yes.
Catch you by surprise.
Because when you say generational things, when they do studies and children are provided services in therapy or in school, and for maybe anxiousness or anxiety, they usually uncover that the parents are experiencing the same things. And 9 times out of 10, it's the women in their lives, their mothers, who are experiencing it. And so when we look at our mental health and we look at our families and then extend that into our communities, how we manage things, how we handle things as women really echoes, right? It reaches further than we can touch. And we want to make sure that doesn't mean we don't, get upset about things. It doesn't mean we don't have problems. It doesn't mean we walk around like, the flower girl who has the flowers in the basket, throwing them as we're walking, right? It doesn't mean any of that. It just means we've learned how to healthily manage it, right? We don't suppress it. You had a bad day, right? But what do I do with that energy? How do I build myself up after having so much on my shoulder all day long?
It's so funny that you mentioned that, because I'm going to tell you a quick story.
So,
my mother, she has this, it's beyond fair. Whatever, is it phobia? Is beyond fair of water. Water. Oh my goodness. It's like, and so when I have my older sister, one time, our children, they're ready to go head first. Like, let's go. There's no fear doesn't even exist with them. We, like you said, kind of put those feelings onto them. So she's ready to, dive head first and having a great time. Unfortunately, she was about to drown, right? And so from that point forward, my mother made a decision that none of her children would ever go near water out of this fear of them drowning.
Yes.
To date, none of us, I have a fear of water and don't even know why, until I had to say, wait, hold on. Like, this is something that was given to me. I didn't, accept it with a big red bow. Like you said, but it was literally just given to me. And I remember when I was in Costa Rica, we were doing zip lining, and I literally saw my life flash because not only is she afraid of water, she's afraid of heights, And so I'm thinking, it took them at least 15 minutes to convince me. What broke this fear was when, just as you said, I thought about my son. And I was like, okay, even though he's not here with me present, but that is something about this energy. Like, he doesn't have to be with me present, because if I'm, like you said before, if it's going to be a lifestyle, it's not these isolated moments. Oh, when he sees me, let me act like, lights, camera, action. No, it's just the idea of him even if he never knows, like mommy was able to
Exactly.
face this fear. And I
Mhm.
swear, they looked at me like, what just happened? It turned to a different person.
Yeah.
I'm zipping. And then
Yeah.
the zip line, it was 11. So they said, now you're really crazy. But I'm zipping like Tarzan on the girl.
Yes.
That and it was the funniest thing, but it was a wonderful experience. So much so that when I went to Haiti, I did it with no thought, just
No hesitation.
no
Yeah.
hesitation. Buckle me up, and I mean, it's pretty in Haiti because you're over the water. Anyway, but that's besides the point. I was just, but I was just using it as an example because
Yeah.
it's so true. I wholeheartedly believe that children have no concept of fear. It's something that it's almost like we force onto them, and in some ways it becomes limiting.
Yes, because we create this blueprint, right? We create this pathway to all the things that we have inside of us. Even after we give birth, there's still these pathways, these connections that we have with them on a daily basis. And I'm so excited that you were able to say, look, I need to show and practice something different so that my son doesn't have these same weights. His blueprint is now going to change towards certain behaviors, right? Because you still may get a tingle inside, but you've made the decision to say, I've had enough and I'm moving on, right? And that's right. What he's now going to see and practice. And that's what's amazing. We always have the option to change our minds and the option to reflect. That reflection, right? As a coach, I always tell humans, reflect, get quiet, take that time, and you're going to notice so many things. Just like, you're making the connections here as we're talking. You're like, look, yeah, I had to make that decision.
Yeah, two of the things that come to mind as we're having this conversation is mindfulness and emotional intelligence.
Yes.
So
yes.
What is some, share your thoughts about how that connects to social and emotional wellness.
Mm-hmm. So one of the practices that we discuss and use when it comes to social emotional development is coping and managing. And we practice those things like mindfulness to help us just develop our own sense of confidence and strength when it comes to calming ourselves down or becoming more self-aware or really taking time to think about a situation before reacting. It's about really saying to yourself, let me take care of myself. Let me take care of my thoughts, because we always think taking care of ourselves is physical. But when it comes to really, we think something, then we react, right? So that thinking part really has to be nurtured. And you really have to think about ways to just connect the mind and the body so they're in sync, so that, even when you're thinking certain thoughts, you can respond differently, right? So it's just using those mindfulness strategies, but connecting your mind and your body so that your actions aren't just knee-jerk reactions to situations or to what people say and do towards you, and really just helping yourself develop a sense of self, right? You learn so much about yourself when you learn new behaviors. You respond and you go, I didn't even know I had it in me to do that, right? But that all takes, you're like, whoa, that was good. But it takes practice, and I have a friend of mine who says, she's a therapist, and she always says, I don't say practice makes perfect. I say practice makes improvement. And if you're always thinking about improvement, then you're not trying to reach a destination with whatever you're doing. You're just trying to constantly revisit what you're doing to make sure that it's right for you.
That reminds me of something that I always mention in my coaching sessions as it relates to classroom teachers, especially as I know, like you said, we're talking about social emotional wellness. I would always remind them, right, as far as it's about the process. Like you said, it's not about that product, and that's the society that we live in, is this product, and people overlook, underestimate, sometimes disregard this whole process of evolving, to self, greater self, better self, improved self. And this is not English. Listeners, this is not English, but I'm going to make this up, okay?
Go for it.
Right, because, and now it just slipped my mind. Oh, wellness self. I like
there
that.
You go. Just grab that back.
Exactly. I was like, I don't know what that word means, but seriously, it's this process, and not necessarily the product. And every time that I've mentioned that in the sessions, it's like this light bulb. It's like, you know what? You're right. Because it's almost like you're putting this false expectation, right? Yeah. And it's great to have expectation of people by all means, but it has to be appropriate, right? It has to be appropriate. So that was very, very powerful, what you said. So just mentioning, as far as coaching, so tell me, expound more of what do you do? What services, what do you do? Share with me.
So through the educational leadership and coaching part of my business, I really work with a lot of educational organizations, school districts, principals, directors of programs, other organizations who support our educational system. And I really help them to think about ways to improve how they work with adults, right? Yeah. And thinking about how their systems work together to not only improve performance, but relationships, because relationships are the foundation of everything. Mm-hmm. If we don't know how to get along, if we don't know how to talk to each other, if we don't even recognize when it's not okay to knock on the office door or go into the classroom, or we have to be able to just build relationships that are strong amongst the adults, wherever we work, right? Even in our own homes, building those relationships are fundamental, because without them, I don't really know you. I don't really know what to expect. And every day feels like I'm walking on eggshells. But if we have an understanding, right? We just met, but we have this synergy, this understanding, and during this conversation, and it helps us to gain understanding about each other, so that if we're ever working again, you're like, okay, yes, I know, something about her that will help me in this situation that we're in now. So we really start, no matter who it is, a leader, a teacher, the school support services, whoever it is, we really work on building relationships. And once we have that down, or, we're ready to move on. I don't know if we ever get it down, but the great thing is that we try to go further and understand everyone's needs, because if we don't know what's needed, everyone has different needs. So we try to support them by looking at the individual needs, or the different pockets in the organization that really need support, and work on the things that they want to work on. That's the beauty of coaching. You really get to lead your process. There's not many spaces where you're the owner of your learning or your process. You talked a lot about, process. So if I'm the owner of my process, then that really changes my trajectory, right? I don't have that person saying, you didn't do this, or you didn't reach this level, or you didn't attain that goal. No matter what you do, you're going to be successful, because you're going to go through the process. So that really encompasses everything that I do with educational leadership and coaching. And for mental wellness, it's really about helping this part of me really wanted to give back to my community.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to support in a different way, women and children in a different way. And I wanted to support them so that it would be sustainable. And the elements of that is education. I have to know what mental health is. I have to know how I can get it, right? I got to know how I can get it. I really got to know how to get it. And that's what a lot of people, that keeps them from moving forward, because I get all this understanding, this information, but what's the next, like, what's holding me back, right? What are the barriers? And usually with mental health, there's a stigma, especially in communities of color, amongst African American people. There are certain stigmas that we have about getting help. And we say, okay, I have my faith, I have my, spirituality, that's going to get me through. But they lack the understanding of what the root cause of their emotions are or their situations. So it's hard to take that next step. And that's what we do in our monthly forum calls. We really think about how we connect the understanding to the steps and giving really practical strategies on how to do that.
Woo!
Woo! I know.
That is a lot to unpack. I mean, mental wellness is, even as it relates to, I was really reflecting on something that you said just over the course of a few weeks now, just mental wellness rather, like in faith-based settings, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, there's certain topics that, I mean, honest, I consider myself to be a church girl, to be honest with you.
Yes.
My mother started going to church, when I was 2, so this
Too,
has
yes.
been, and like, again, just this, this influence, if I can say, for the lack of a better word, just this is all you know. If your mother only ate corn, chances are, no, seriously,
you're gonna love corn.
And it's like, you don't want to try broccoli? No, I don't like it. But it's not the fact that you don't like it. You've never been exposed to it, you know? And so the same thing holds true to this idea or this topic as it relates to mental health and faith-based, or churches, faith-based organizations and settings. It's almost like the elephant in the room, to be honest with you, because like you said, well, pray, 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 pray. But there's a practicality, that many people overlook, right? And so that's great. That's I just, like I said, it triggered something, because I don't say trigger in a bad way. It literally was something I was just thinking about this, because I know a lot of people, especially now, and it's, multiplied since 2020, because
exactly.
It's like there was something that I've heard many years ago that has changed my life. I'm telling you, and I always repeat it in certain spaces, and for some reason I feel like I should repeat it now. And it's what I've heard is that purpose, right, is not like this boom, bang, shang, it's not like this outward explosive event that happens, right?
Yes.
What I heard is that purpose is fulfilling a need. Sean, I swear to, I was like, wait, what? I've never heard that before in my life, right? And so tying it back to, the pandemic, as we all know, this is the world, it's like an epidemic that the world is, faced. So many people tapped into their purpose because this was a need, like you, and then even in relationships, like you mentioned before, relationships, marriage, partnerships, a lot of times people were not used to
talking.
Being in the same room, just sharing, literally, even though we have this thing here, right? But just sharing the same space for more than 5 minutes. Listen, I'm brushing my teeth, brushing your teeth. I'll see you later. So it forced to talk. share space, look at some of the things that you've overlooked in this passing, this living, so to speak, this living. And so I've seen a lot of people, step into that uncharted territory, and in some instances really taking this healthy risk, because some people are not comfortable having that conversation either, right? So it is just
hard.
Yeah, it's very, very challenging to have that conversation, because especially as you mentioned before, in African American homes and families, there's no such thing as weakness, sister.
Exactly.
There's no such thing as, what are you talking about? You have anxiety, or what are you talking about? You got to break down, and what are you talking about? You hear many young boys, right? Boys don't cry, or not to say that it doesn't happen in other cultures and things, but the truth of the matter is that, and it's as they say, the proof is in the pudding. The proof is in the pudding is that it happens more in these populations. You know what I mean? And so, as you mentioned before, if you don't have an outlet, then what?
Exactly. If you don't have, if you were never taught, right? If it's not in your proximity, if it's not something that you see every day, you don't know. Just like you said, if I'm only given corn, don't veer from what I know and then expect me to embrace it right away. And that is the part that really people go, oh, you're always saying time to reflect. Yes, because reflection allows us to become still and really think about, right? We're in this space, and you start reflecting about, why am I afraid of water? Yeah, I know, but now I need to make that connection. Why don't I do this in church, or they don't do this in church? It gives us an opportunity to have a different perspective, right? And it gives us a chance for thinking about things differently. When you reflect, it's not about just thinking about how am I going to change. People think change is often taking away. Change can be adding to, right? Adding value. You don't have to take away when you're thinking about what to do next. It's what can I add? What will make me feel better? What would get me to the place where I feel I need to be? And if I don't know where that place is, how do I begin to explore? You talked about purpose. And one of the things that came to me during this pandemic was, what did I need, right? Because it changes. It's not constant, right? It changes, and that's okay. It's supposed to, right? Once I got that concept down, okay. Change, once I got that down, but it's constant and it's inevitable. So what did I need? And I needed a space where I could share my fears, right? Where I can express how I felt, where I wouldn't feel even reluctant to go full effect with it, right? Even just to say, it's so hard sometimes for women to say, I need a moment to breathe, right? I need a moment for it to be quiet. We're so busy and just trying to keep things together, to hold it all together, that we are moving. And it takes a toll on not only our mental health, but our physical health. And I needed a space, right? And out of that space came a purpose. Yes, we have lots of platforms, and I love it. And I engage in all of them, as many as I can anyway, because it helps me, right? And we get to talk. The more you suppress and keep things in, you don't find out what you need to find out about yourself. So out of that need came this purpose to create a safe space for women and women of color to just be themselves, to say, it's hard. This has happened to me. I don't want to be like this anymore. I need help. I need support. And that may mean spiritual help. That I might need to find God, right? I may need to just think about all of those things that are holding me back. And I may need someone to do that lovingly, right? And then I may need someone to say, This is what's happening.
Exactly.
And I may not be able to help you here, but here are the resources, and I can get you to that next step if you want to go. So that word purpose is really powerful, because it wasn't a place that I needed to go. It wasn't a destination I needed to have. It wasn't just a word. So it's really important.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. As you know, coaches basically in our right. Of course, as you mentioned before, goal setting, right? Goal
Yeah.
setting. Especially a lot of people do this at the beginning of the year, and we're not talking about that right now. Right. But as it relates to goal setting, and I wanted to make sure that I, ask this question.
Yeah.
So when discussing setting goals surrounding mental wellness or mental
Mhm.
health, right? What are the 5 keys you want women or women of color, right, to
Mhm.
get? What is the takeaway? I want to listen, listeners, you should be sitting down.
Sit down.
This is when you pull out your pen or your tablet or your note
Exactly.
on your iPhone, and this is the punchline. So this is
Right.
what you want to make sure that you get, right? So what are the 5 keys?
Yes. So fasten your seatbelts. Let's go on this ride, right?
Yes.
And I, I just want to emphasize that. So during, I wrote a coaching workbook, a 10-day self-coaching guide workbook surrounding wellness. And we started with self-love, because you don't need anyone or anything to help you with that goal but yourself. And I emphasize in that workbook the 5 keys that you need to reaching any goal, right? And the first one is to get grace. And that's to really allow yourself to be yourself, not to have any pressure from anyone or anybody, and to become more aware about the things that you want. We talked about that getting still, but really embracing yourself and thinking about your own possibilities. What makes me unique, wonderful, and writing it down, right? So you can really see it on paper. And the next key is to get growth. I can think I'm awesome. I can say I want to do all these wonderful things, but I need to do something to help myself grow, right? I've accepted myself by giving myself grace. I've done all the things that I needed to do, but do I need to take a class? Do I need to get more education? Everybody always saying, just go for it, just do it. But there has to be some preparation in your process, right? It just doesn't happen overnight. And then after you get growth, you got to move, right? Because ideas are just that without movement.
Wow.
Ideas will stay in the graveyard, right? Les Brown says the most wonderful ideas are in the graveyard. Right? Yeah. There go Les Brown there. So just having movement, right? Whatever that looks like to you. Yeah. And I'm not talking about you got to go fast or go slow. If you ever heard of the story of the tortoise and the hare, the hare went to sleep. He was so, full of himself, like, oh, I can get there. I'll do it. And I'll wake up and then it'll happen. And then when it doesn't go your way, you realize you need to go back. And the tortoise was all about the process. The tortoise said, I'm going to stay focused. I don't care what people say. I don't care what they do. I'm going to run my race, and it is going to be a finish line. And I just want you to set a target. Don't worry about overachieving or underachieving. We set a target and we learn and we go through the process. So I know we always talk about work hard. You'll get there. You'll do this, but you got to build some self-confidence. So you got to get glad, right? You got to build your self-confidence. So I set my target. If I didn't achieve it or I didn't hit the target, I still got going. I still had some growth. I had some movement towards the things that are really valuable to me. And I say to myself, And I learned to celebrate myself. And I keep doing that practice. And once you do that, you say, I'm ready to celebrate. I'm ready to revel in all of my accomplishment. Tamron Hall, the daytime talk show host, she was like, when I was pitching my show, I decided that I'm going to boast. I'm going to tell people about who I am and what I did, and not in a way that puts anyone else down, but not worry about other people's opinions of me, and not downplay myself because it makes others feel good. And just giving and getting glory. You didn't do this alone, right? I don't care who you are, what you are, always revel and celebrate, boast if you want to, but humble yourself, give and get glory. Let someone else know, show homage, right? To your ancestors. You're standing on somebody's back, someone who came before you. Acknowledge and recognize those things and those people. And with that, I'm sure you'll reach and do all the things that you want to do in your life.
Wow, that's absolutely positively wait, super
califragil. I was going there too. I said, let's go.
No, I'm kidding. I missed my opportunity on the spelling bee. No, I'm sorry. I'm joking. Yes. Wow. Well, this, oh my goodness, talk about wealth, right? Not, people think about wealth and, money and riches and housing, but this is wealth, right? Yes. Because it is generational.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm just like, whoo, this was amazing. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. So I feel like you have to come back.
I would love to come back. I would love it.
You would have to come back. You have to. Seriously. We'll have to set up time and we'll do a part 2 for sure.
Definitely.
So, Mrs. Keisha, just tell us, where can we find you, please?
Yes.
Don't knock on her door. No, I'm kidding.
You can find me on Instagram at KeyStone Training. You can find me on Facebook at KeystoneTraining.education. You can find me on my website at yourkeystonetraining.com, and you can go to yourkeystonetraining.com/wellness to download the 10-day self-coaching guide that will support you initially with setting a goal surrounding self-love, but also any goal you want to reach and attain.
Wow, that is so amazing. Well, thank you. We're going to wrap it up, but you have to come back. Listen,
I would love to.
I came back. So. But definitely, I mean, they would have you on every host, but no. But it was an honor. It was such a privilege to share this time. Thank you so much for all the work that you're doing. As I said before, and I'm going to reiterate, purpose is fulfilling a need. So every single day that you can provide a solution, right? Or an answer, you fulfill purpose. And so I'm hoping out of many of the things that were shared, you've gained many tips and tools, aha moments in some cases, but then also just understanding, purpose, right? And just how that can happen every single day. So thank you so much again. So the listeners, please listen, you have to come back and listen to Sheba share.
I will share. It's my pleasure.
Yes. Thank you. So just make sure that you share the links and so that other people can gain this wealth. So to all our listeners, until next time, thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.